Ever stop to think what might happen if your data teams, the engineers, the analysts, the scientists, could suddenly work together without all those usual barriers?
Oh, that's the big promise, isn't it?
Exactly. And that's really the core idea behind Microsoft Fabric we're diving into today.
Yeah, it's a pretty significant potential shift. I mean,
Hmm.
traditionally, these roles often operated in, well, silos,
Totally. You had engineers managing pipelines over here,
right? Analysts building dashboards way over there.
and scientists maybe in a completely different environment building models. Lots of handoffs, lots of friction.
Passing the baton was sometimes the hardest part of the race, you could say.
Yeah.
Different tools, different processes.
For sure. So Microsoft Fabric comes along integrating things like Synapse Analytics, Power BI, Data Factory,
Right.
all into one SaaS platform.
A unified space.
Right. So the big question we're tackling is, okay, you put everyone in the same playground, technically. Does that mean they'll actually, collaborate effectively?
Well, that's the crux of it. Fabric isn't just about new tools. It really pushes for a change in culture and how teams operate.
How so?
You've got OneLake acting as this shared data foundation. Think of it like a single source of truth for everyone. And then Fabric workspaces become these like shared project rooms.
Okay, so shared data, shared workspace.
Exactly. And while the lines between roles might blur a bit, their fundamental purpose, their core expertise, that still remains vital. It's more about enabling easier teamwork.
Okay, let's break that down then, starting with the data engineers. What's their world look like in Fabric? Still building the plumbing.
Pretty much, but maybe more collaboratively. Think of them as the architects of the data flow, absolutely.
Okay.
They're designing pipelines, probably using Data Factory within Fabric. They're managing data quality and structure, often using Delta tables in the lakehouse.
Delta tables, those are the ones with time travel and schema enforcement, right? Makes the data more reliable.
Precisely. It's like version control for your data tables. Super important. And they'll use tools like Spark for transformations. Their main goal is still ensuring the data is clean, secure, and crucially accessible to the others.
Got it. Architects and guardians of the data flow. So they lay the foundation. What about the data analysts? The insight hunters, as you called them earlier.
Yeah, the inside hunter, they jump onto that prepared data.
Yeah.
Within Fabric, their go-to tools will likely be the SQL warehouses for querying and Power BI, especially Power BI's direct lake mode.
Ah, direct lake. I keep hearing about that. That's the fast connection to the lakehouse data.
Incredibly fast. It lets Power BI read the Delta tables in OneLake directly without importing or duplicating data. So dashboards are way more responsive, closer to real time.
Makes sense. So they rely heavily on the engineers providing that solid, trustworthy data foundation first.
Absolutely. And they're often the first line of defense in spotting issues. If the numbers look weird in a report, they're the ones likely raising the flag.
Right, the canaries in the data mine, perhaps.
Huh. Something like that, yeah.
Okay, so engineers build, analysts interpret. Now, the data scientists, they're digging even deeper, right? Looking for patterns, predictions.
Exactly. They're the deep sea explorers, maybe. They go beyond the what happened to the why and what might happen next.
And how does Fabric help them?
Well, they can use the same curated data in OneLake that the analysts are using. No more separate data extracts, hopefully. They'll work in Spark notebooks, exploring data, building machine learning models.
Okay.
And Fabric integrates tools like MLflow, which is really useful for tracking experiments, managing models, versioning, everything. It brings more discipline to the process.
So they depend on the engineers for good data, and their outputs, like predictions, could feed back to the analysts.
Yes, absolutely. Or even inform changes to the data pipelines the engineers manage. It's potentially a much tighter loop.
So Fabric puts all these roles, engineer, analyst, scientist, in this shared environment. What are the actual benefits of that closeness? Does it really change how they work together?
I think it really can. The shared space, the shared data, it inherently reduces friction. You have fewer formal handoffs, which always take time and introduce potential misunderstandings.
Yeah, the whole throwing it over the wall problem.
Exactly. Instead, you might see more shared ownership. An analyst might spot an issue, and the engineer is right there in the same workspace to look at the pipeline. A scientist needs a feature engineered. It's a smoother conversation.
Faster feedback loops, then.
Much faster. It encourages, or at least enables, more organic communication and problem solving.
Okay, that sounds good conceptually. Can you walk us through a practical example? Like, how would a project flow?
Sure. Let's imagine tracking website user behavior. The data engineer sets up a pipeline in Data Factory to ingest clickstream data into a lakehouse, structuring it as delta tables.
Okay, data's flowing in.
Right. Almost immediately, the data analyst connects Power BI using direct lake mode to that lakehouse. They start building a dashboard showing, say, page views, session duration, bounce rates near real time.
Instant visibility. Nice.
Now, the data scientist sees this data too. They pull the same lakehouse data into a Fabric notebook. They use Spark to analyze user paths, maybe build a model to predict which users are likely to convert,
Using the exact same data source.
the exact same source. Then they use MLflow to track their model versions, and they write the prediction scores likely to convert or not back into another table in the same lakehouse.
Ah, so the output lands back in OneLake.
Correct. And now the analyst can easily add those prediction scores to their Power BI dashboard. Maybe highlight users predicted to convert.
Wow, so you go from raw data collection to analysis to prediction and back to analysis, all within the same system using the same core data.
Precisely. No exporting files, no emailing data sets, no version confusion. That's the synergy Fabric aims for. It streamlines the whole analytics lifecycle.
That really does sound much more efficient, cuts out a lot of the manual steps and potential errors.
It certainly has that potential, but it also requires a bit of cross-skilling or at least cross-understanding.
What do you mean?
Well, for this to work smoothly, the engineer might need to understand a bit about how Power BI's Direct Lake works best with their delta tables.
Okay.
The analyst might benefit from understanding what a delta table actually is, beyond just, data. And the scientist needs to document their models well enough for the analyst to understand the predictions they're seeing.
So it's not just shared tools, it's shared understanding, too.
That's the key to making the collaboration really effective. The tech enables it, but the people have to embrace it.
Which brings us back to the big question for everyone listening. Think about your own data teams. Are they currently maybe just coexisting in their roles, or are they truly collaborating?
Yeah, could a unified platform like Fabric help bridge those gaps and unlock faster, more integrated insights for you?
It's definitely something to consider. Microsoft Fabric offers the technical foundation, the opportunity, but like you said, unlocking its full power really hinges on teamwork and that collaborative culture shift.
Couldn't agree more. The technology is powerful, but culture eats strategy and technology for breakfast, right?
Ah, indeed. So if you want to explore these roles, engineer, analyst, scientist, and Fabric in more depth, or get ideas on building those collaborative teams, definitely check out the full blog post associated with this.
There's a lot more detail there.
And of course, if you're thinking about how Fabric might fit into your organization, or maybe even shift your own career path, feel free to subscribe, follow us, see how we at Curate Partners might be able to help guide that journey.
Absolutely. Well, until our next deep dive then, stay curious, stay connected,
And stay collaborative.